Chosen one, you've been circling the same four walls for too long, and heaven has been watching you outgrow a space that was never meant to contain what you're becoming. Don't you dare scroll away from this message. You didn't stumble upon this video by accident. Can you feel it? That restless stirring that whispers your current environment is too small for the vision God planted inside you. If you ignore what I'm about to reveal, you'll spend another season cramped in a container designed for who you used to be, not who you're called to become. This isn't just content. This is a prophetic interruption specifically timed for your transition. You are not here by accident. What's ahead in this message will unlock why you've been feeling constrained and why change isn't just coming, it's overdue. But first, here's what you need to understand. God doesn't expand your territory until He's expanded your capacity to steward it. The restlessness you've been feeling isn't dissatisfaction, it's divine preparation. Now here's what heaven is declaring over your life in this season. By the time this video ends, you'll have complete clarity on why this move isn't just practical, it's prophetic. I'm about to show you how God uses physical transitions to unlock spiritual promotions, and why your next space is already prepared in the realm of the Spirit. This word isn't just timely, it's the key to understanding why everything has felt too tight, too limiting, too small for what's stirring inside you. Hit the like button to declare, I'm ready to receive this divine message. It takes just a second, but helps spread this word to thousands of other chosen ones who need it right now. Comment 777. If you're declaring today as the day you step into divine abundance, favor, and breakthrough, drop a comment below with one thing you need prayer for today. Then reply to someone else's comment with words of encouragement. Faith grows stronger when we stand together. Share your need, lift someone else up, and watch how God moves in all our lives. And to our cherished members, your support is a seed of love. May the Lord water it with peace, purpose, and powerful answers to prayer. You know that feeling, don't you? That deep ache in your soul, a persistent whisper that there's more, so much more, just beyond your current horizon. It's like you're standing on the very edge of a vast, beautiful landscape, almost able to taste the fresh air of breakthrough, but an invisible tether, a silent resistance, holds you firmly in place. It's that gnawing sensation of being utterly stuck, of hitting a dense, unyielding wall, even when every fiber of your being cries out that abundance, joy, and purpose are your birthright. You might feel as if you're wandering through a barren desert, surrounded by the harsh realities of limitation, while the vibrant oasis of God's promise shimmers tantalizingly just out of reach. This feeling, this profound spiritual longing and frustration, is not new. It's a human experience woven through history, a pattern God has patiently observed in His children for millennia. Think about the Israelites, a people who understood this feeling with gut-wrenching intimacy. They had just witnessed the monumental, earth-shattering miracle of their deliverance from generations of brutal slavery in Egypt. They had seen God's mighty hand part a sea, provide daily bread from heaven, and quench their thirst from a rock. And God, in His boundless love, had promised them a land flowing with milk and honey, a place of peace and prosperity. But then, an astonishing and heartbreaking twist. They found themselves wandering not for the mere days their journey should have taken, but for 40 long, arduous years in the wilderness. The promised land wasn't physically distant. It was in fact remarkably close. What truly prolonged their journey wasn't a geographical barrier, but an internal one. Their perspective, their collective mindset, remained stubbornly locked into the scarcity, the fear, and the limitations they had known in Egypt. They had been physically freed from the chains of Pharaoh, yes, but their minds, their very identities, were still enslaved by a deeply ingrained desert mentality. Their memories of bondage, of being merely slaves, dictated their view of God's provision. They saw giants in the land where God saw inheritance. They remembered the leeks and onions of Egypt with a longing that blinded them to the manna from heaven. They were free, yet they lived as if they were still in chains. their vision clouded by past traumas and self-imposed limitations. Many among them prayed earnestly, even desperately, begging God to get them out of their situation, to remove the discomfort, to clear the path. But surprisingly, very few, if any, genuinely prepared their hearts for expansion. They wanted out of their predicament, but they weren't truly ready to grow beyond the identity that predicament had formed. They yearned for a new address, a different location, but failed to realize that what they truly needed was a completely new identity, a transformation of spirit that would allow them to possess the new territory God had for them. They couldn't walk into a land of milk and honey with a mind steeped in the bitter dust of scarcity. And you know what, beloved friend? That's precisely where so many of us find ourselves today. Heaven has been watching your journey. God, the patient and loving Father, has been waiting for you with an open heart. He's been waiting for you to become just uncomfortable enough to feel that divine nudge so persistently that you finally gather the courage to let go of those things that are simply too small for you now. They are too familiar. Yes, like a favorite worn-out blanket that no longer offers true warmth. They are too beneath the grand, magnificent vision that He has so carefully, so uniquely carved into the very fabric of your soul. Your soul carries a divine blueprint, a sacred architecture designed for far greater things than you currently inhabit. We often mistakenly believe that what truly limits us is some imposing external enemy, or a formidable obstacle that stands directly in our path. And certainly sometimes it is, and those challenges are real and demand courage. But more often than not, the true barrier is much more subtle, much closer to home. It's actually just an echo of old comfort zones that we've lovingly outgrown, yet they still feel safe, like the familiar walls of a childhood room we've long since left. An echo of old survival patterns that once served us well in a different season, protecting us when we were vulnerable, but now they hold us captive, keeping us from daring to step forward. Or even a haunting echo of old negative names, labels that fear, exhaustion, or past experiences have subtly spoken over us, whispering you're not enough, you're stuck, you're unloved. And tragically, we've, perhaps unconsciously, started to believe them, letting them define our potential. What if those 4 familiar walls you keep circling, those invisible boundaries you constantly bump up against, are not real barriers at all? What if they're not solid, impenetrable rock, but merely the dusty, fading remnants of a season that God has already clearly declared is over? Imagine the sun shining through where a wall used to be, now just an outline on the floor. What if the next step isn't about frantically trying to break down a wall with brute force, but simply recognizing with dawning clarity that it's already gone, dissolved by God's intention, and you just need to gather the courage to walk through the open space where it used to be? The barrier isn't there, it's in your mind's memory of its existence. You see, some of the absolute greatest breakthroughs in life don't emerge from frantically searching for every single answer out there, trying to piece together a solution from external sources, like assembling a complex puzzle without the picture on the box. Instead, they happen in moments of profound quietude, when you finally slow down, get truly still, and allow yourself to simply sit with revelation. It's a completely different kind of pursuit. Not one of striving, but of receiving. It's about letting truth unfold organically within you, allowing the Holy Spirit to illuminate your understanding, to show you things in a new, transformative light. It's not about generating answers from your own limited intellect, but about receiving divine insight. It's like when a light bulb goes off. Not because you finally found the switch hidden in the dark, but because someone, the divine electrician himself, gently plugged in the lamp for you, flooding your inner world with understanding. If that deep, resonant truth stirs something within your spirit right now, if you feel that quiet, undeniable stirring in your heart, that sense of recognition that this message is speaking directly to your circumstance, then I truly believe that The 10 Hidden Truths of Jesus' Parables is your essential next step. It's not a lengthy, dense theological textbook filled with abstract concepts designed to gather dust on a shelf. Quite the opposite. It's a short, incredibly powerful ebook, crafted with care to be a practical guide. It's designed to open up practical, spirit-led truths that can directly impact areas like your finances, your journey towards healing, and even bring incredible clarity to the intricate landscape of your emotional life. This isn't just theoretical knowledge. It's meant for practical application, a living wisdom to guide your daily walk, transforming your perspective and your reality. The link to get your personal copy is right there, nestled in the very first comment below this video. But please know, this special offering is only available for a limited time, a window of opportunity. So if you feel that gentle but persistent nudge from the Spirit, don't hesitate. Don't wait for the feeling to fade. Now I need you to lean in and listen very carefully to this next part, because it's a truth that can feel profoundly counterintuitive, challenging our natural inclination, yet it is absolutely critical for authentic spiritual growth. The next move God pulls you into, that next expansive step forward He has divinely orchestrated for you, will very often feel a lot like loss before it ever begins to feel like gain. That's why the discomfort, that feeling of unease, of being stretched beyond your limits, grows so intensely sometimes. It's not, as your flesh might whisper, a sign that you're doing something wrong or that you've missed a step. On the contrary, it's often a clear, unmistakable sign that you are doing something deeply right, that you are actively aligning with God's transformational process. It's the sensation of shedding the old, a necessary process before embracing the new. Think about Abraham, the revered father of faith. God called him out not just from his comfortable home and familiar surroundings, but from everything and everyone deeply familiar to him, from his entire established world in Ur of the Chaldeans. He was compelled to trust a map he literally couldn't see with his physical eyes, a destination that was only a whisper, a promise echoing in his spirit. He left behind his land, his established identity, his reputation, his lineage, everything he knew, stepping out into an unknown future based solely on divine instruction. He didn't just pack up his bags and casually walk into a new address. He grew into a completely new instruction, a revolutionary way of living, a foundational new covenant with God Himself. He had to let go of what was, to embrace what was becoming. Your current frustration, that persistent feeling of being squeezed, pressed, or even tested, isn't a sign of failure. It's not a setback, a punishment, or an indication that you've fallen behind. Instead, it's actually the gentle, loving, yet incredibly firm pressure of heaven fitting you for expansion, shaping you for what's next. It's like the skilled tailor carefully adjusting a new, perfectly tailored suit that's designed to fit your growing frame. At first, it feels a little snug, perhaps even tight across the shoulders or around the waist. But that feeling isn't a flaw. It's a deliberate design, meant to fit your new, growing self, designed for the grander occasions and purposes that await you. It's a sign of progress, not confinement. And coming up, as we delve deeper into this conversation, you're going to discover a critical step that most people, out of natural human inclination, try their absolute best to avoid. But ironically, it's the very one that changes absolutely everything, unlocking profound transformation. So, let's get truly practical. Let's bring these truths into your everyday experience. The very first thing I want you to do, and I ask you to do this with radical honesty, is to take a really earnest stock of the labels you're still wearing, the names you're still unconsciously calling yourself from your last season, from yesterday's disappointments. Are you walking around constantly thinking, internalizing, and even speaking out loud phrases like, "I'm perpetually tired," or "I'm completely stuck, there's no way out," or "I'm always overlooked, my efforts never truly seen"? These are not just fleeting thoughts. They are deeply rooted declarations, and they carry an immense spiritual weight, shaping the very atmosphere around you. The words we choose, especially those we internalize, become the architects of our reality. Remember Gideon in the ancient scriptures? He was hiding, literally threshing wheat in a winepress, a desperate covert act to escape the terrifying oppression of the Midianites. He was consumed by fear, humble to the point of self-effacement, calling himself the weakest in his family. From the least significant clan in Manasseh, he had identified himself with insignificance and powerlessness. But when the angel of the Lord, God's messenger, appeared to him in that dark, hidden place, what did God call him? He didn't call him fearful farmer or hidden man or weakest link. He thundered with divine authority and loving intent. The Lord is with you, mighty warrior. God called him by his destiny, by who he was created to be, not by his current circumstance, his paralyzing fear, or his self-perception. What you choose to answer to, what name you ultimately choose to accept for yourself, powerfully determines what follows you into your next space, into your next season of expansion. It's time to intentionally, deliberately, and consistently name yourself by what God declares over you, by the truth He's already spoken into your spirit, not by what your past confinement or your current limitations have conditioned you to believe about yourself. Speak life, speak courage, speak strength over your identity, because your identity, your inner conviction of who you are in Christ, dictates your outer reality. It is the compass that guides your actions and attracts your experiences. Next, let's really examine with compassionate yet firm eyes the patterns that seem to keep resurfacing in your life, almost like a broken record playing the same weary melody again and again. You know them, don't you? Those recurring situations that feel eerily familiar, those ingrained emotional responses that hijack your peace, those stubborn habits that you keep trying desperately to shake, but they just cling on, like burrs to a coat. Spiritual cycles, whether they manifest in relationships, finances, health, or emotional well-being, often repeat themselves over and over again, precisely because the core lessons embedded within them remain unlearned, unacknowledged, or unresolved. It's like trying to move forward on a journey while still tripping over the exact same obstacle you encountered yesterday, unable to truly leave it behind. Think about Samson, a man blessed by God with incredible supernatural strength, chosen by God for a mighty, divine purpose from his very birth. Yet, time and again, the Bible shows us how he found himself bound, not primarily by external enemies at first, but by old relationships and old appetites, by his own unbridled desires and repeated compromises. The scriptures subtly yet powerfully show him falling for the same Delilah dressed in a different disguise, more than once, repeating the same pattern of giving in to temptation, of compromising his anointing and his calling, despite clear, unmistakable warnings from God and his parents. His external power was immense, but his internal discipline was weak, leading him back to the same destructive cycles. Your destiny, your true calling, the magnificent purpose God has for you, requires a radical level of honesty with yourself. It asks for a humble bravery that looks inward without flinching. Until you are truly honest and brave enough to name the habit, to call it what it is, to acknowledge the pattern for what it truly represents, you simply cannot break the cycle. It's like trying to fix a deep-seated problem without admitting that the problem even exists, or misdiagnosing it entirely. In just a few more moments, we're going to uncover some profound truths that have probably been hidden in plain sight for far too long, like buried treasure, waiting for you to notice them, just waiting for the moment you're ready to receive them. And here's where things really start to intensify, where the rubber meets the road, where your inner resolve is truly tested. It's absolutely crucial for your spiritual progress that you actively, intentionally, and consistently silence every single counterfeit voice that attempts to rationalize your delay, to justify your inaction, or to whisper reasons for staying precisely where you are. These aren't always loud, overtly negative voices like roaring lions of doubt. Sometimes they're far more insidious, subtle, whispering reasons that sound incredibly wise, incredibly logical, and totally practical, cloaked in seemingly reasonable arguments. Now's truly not the right time for that big step, they might suggest. Or you're clearly not ready yet for such a responsibility. Or what if you try and fail spectacularly? What then? But listen closely. Underneath that seemingly rational veneer, these voices, whether internal or external, are almost always deeply rooted in fear. They promise to keep you safe, yes, to protect you from risk and disappointment, but in doing so, they also keep you small, confined, and perpetually at the threshold of your potential. Remember the serpent in the Garden of Eden? He didn't attack Eve with violence, with overt threats, or with harsh accusations. No, his strategy was far more cunning. He attacked her with questions, subtle suggestions that expertly undermined her identity as a beloved child of God, her unwavering trust in His goodness, and her clear understanding of what was true. Did God really say? He slithered. Those subtle, seemingly innocent questions were precisely designed to create doubt, to chip away at her conviction, and ultimately to derail her from God's perfect plan. True spiritual discernment isn't just about telling right from wrong, distinguishing black from white. It's about knowing with spirit-led clarity which voices, both those that echo within your own mind and those that emanate from the world around you, you need to consciously subtract from your life. You must prune the noise, cut away the static, so that God's clear, pure, undeniable direction can finally multiply, reverberate, and settle deeply in your heart and mind. When you purposefully mute the cacophony of doubt and the insistent murmurs of fear, God's gentle guiding whispers become crystal clear, unmistakable, like a lighthouse beam cutting through the fog. Now, this next one requires a profound level of courage, a daring leap beyond your natural inclination. You must actively dare to step beyond convenience. We live in a world that constantly, relentlessly prizes comfort, ease, and instant gratification above almost everything else. Our culture is geared towards eliminating friction, reducing effort, and seeking the path of least resistance. But God's plans, His divine blueprints for our lives, often beautifully and strategically defy our innate human desire for convenience. They frequently call us into uncomfortable, inconvenient spaces where growth truly takes root. Think about Noah, a man whose story echoes through the ages. God told him to build an ark, a massive, unprecedented vessel, long before there was even a single cloud in the sky, long before the very concept of rain, let alone a global flood, made any logical sense to anyone in that arid landscape. Noah had to build that enormous ark on dry land, enduring years, perhaps decades, of ridicule, skepticism, and outright scorn from everyone around him. His obedience seemed not just illogical, but wildly excessive, even insane to his contemporaries. Sometimes, your radical obedience to God will appear completely excessive, perhaps even embarrassing or downright foolish, especially to those who are perfectly comfortable, perhaps even thriving, in their own spiritual drought. They simply won't understand why you're taking that leap of faith, why you're investing your precious time, your dwindling resources, or your vulnerable reputation in something that seems so illogical, so contrary to common sense. They might mock your diligence, question your sanity, or dismiss your spiritual convictions as fanciful. But here's the undeniable, unchanging truth that anchors the obedient. God always, always preserves the obedient. He saves the abundance, the miraculous breakthrough, the ultimate fulfillment for those who were willing to prepare for it, to build for it, to believe for it, even when it seemed absurd, when all external evidence contradicted their faith. It's their preparedness, born of radical, often inconvenient obedience, that profoundly positions them for blessing, for the manifestation of what was once only a whisper in their hearts. And coming up, as we continue to journey through these vital truths, we're going to discuss what is probably the most misunderstood move in spiritual maturity, but it's the very thing that sets everything in motion, shifting your reality in ways you can't imagine. Get ready, because it's likely not what you think, and it will challenge your deepest assumptions. This point, my friend, is utterly crucial. It cuts to the heart of release. You must courageously confront what you've been nurturing instead of burying. It sounds harsh, doesn't it? The word confront often carries a negative connotation. But in this context, it's about discerning with divine wisdom what you are still lovingly, perhaps even unconsciously, holding onto that no longer serves God's unfolding purpose for your life. It's about acknowledging the weeds you've tended in your garden of the soul instead of uprooting them. Remember King Saul. His story is a powerful cautionary tale. He lost his throne, not necessarily because he committed some massive, heinous, overt crime that shocked the nation. No, his downfall was far more insidious. He lost his kingship because he spared what God had explicitly and unequivocally told him to completely destroy. He held on to things that God said needed to be let go of, under the deceptive guise of offering them as a more magnificent sacrifice, or perhaps out of his own pride and desire for trophies. But in reality, it was about his own preference, his own comfort, his own partial obedience, which in God's eyes is often equivalent to disobedience. So I ask you, with utmost sincerity and a longing for your freedom, what are you managing, meticulously preserving, or secretly cherishing from a previous time, a previous season, an old identity that God is now unequivocally asking you to surrender completely? It could manifest as an old grudge, a deeply embedded past hurt that you revisit like a familiar wound, a limiting belief system that keeps you small, an unhealthy relationship that drains your spirit, a comfort habit that keeps you complacent, or even a particular ambition that's no longer aligned with His higher will for your life. Divine expansion, true spiritual growth, demands that you travel light. You simply cannot carry old, cumbersome baggage, the weight of yesterday's burdens and attachments, into the expansive, beautiful new territory that God has prepared for you. Clinging to expired ties, to people, places, or mindsets that are past their season or purpose, could genuinely cost you everything that God has waiting for you ahead. It's like trying to run a challenging marathon to reach your personal best, while dragging a heavy, unnecessary suitcase behind you. The weight will exhaust you, slow you down, and ultimately you simply won't reach your full, divinely intended potential. Now, this next one is a beautiful paradox, a truth that unlocks profound blessings. You need to learn to sow, to invest your heart and your efforts in the very place you least want to invest. This isn't just about money, though it certainly can apply there. It's about generously investing your precious time, your vital energy, your humility, your kindness, and your unseen labor in areas that feel unglamorous, difficult, overlooked, or even painfully challenging. These are the hidden fields of spiritual growth, often disguised as drudgery. Think of Ruth, a woman whose profound loyalty and humility changed the course of history. She was a Moabite widow, a foreigner, completely destitute, with absolutely no claim or entitlement in Israel, a land not her own. She chose, out of a fierce love and devotion, to follow her beloved mother-in-law, Naomi, back to a foreign land where she had no status, no protection. And what did she do when she arrived? She didn't demand charity, she didn't complain about her circumstances, and she didn't wait for a miraculous handout. Instead, she humbly went to glean in the fields, picking up the leftover grain from the harvesters, the scraps that others left behind. It was a lowly, painstaking, physically demanding, and utterly unglamorous task, done in the heat of the day, under the watchful eyes of strangers. But it was precisely her unwavering humility, that steadfast posture of service, faithfulness, and quiet perseverance, even when pride would have absolutely justified bitterness, resentment, and a sense of entitlement, that unlocked her astonishing elevation. She wasn't looking for a handout. She was working diligently, faithfully, and with integrity in the very place she least wanted to be, serving with a quiet dignity. So, I urge you, do not despise those small beginnings. Do not look down on the seemingly insignificant tasks, the difficult relationships that challenge your patience, or the quiet, seemingly unproductive seasons of waiting. Every single field, no matter how humble its appearance, no matter how challenging or thankless it feels in the moment, is a potential seed ground for future favor, for future blessings, and for incredible elevation that you cannot yet conceive. You might be sowing seeds of character, patience, perseverance, and unwavering faith that will ultimately yield a harvest beyond anything you can currently imagine, a harvest that will sustain you and bless generations. It's time truly to radically redefine success. We live in a world that relentlessly bombards us with meticulously curated images of success, dazzling fame, immense wealth, undeniable power, constant outward achievement, and apparently perfect, frictionless life. Social media amplifies these ideals, creating a relentless pressure to perform and accumulate. But God's definition of success is often profoundly, almost shockingly different. It operates on an entirely different scale of value. Consider Elijah, the fiery prophet of God. This man, empowered by divine might, called down fire from heaven on Mount Carmel, completely shaming the 450 prophets of Baal in a public, undeniable, miraculous display of God's supreme power. He stood up with audacious courage against a wicked king and queen, Ahab and Jezebel, and God used him as a mighty instrument to bring a powerful spiritual revival to a nation steeped in idolatry. You'd think someone that's spiritually powerful, that divinely anointed, would be utterly immune to struggle, to weakness, to despair, right? But soon after that incredible public victory, we find him utterly depleted, running in fear from Jezebel, sitting under a lonely broom tree in the desert, exhausted, alone, and wishing for death. His immense power, his profound anointing, his great public achievement didn't immunize him from exhaustion, from despair, from feeling utterly alone and abandoned. This stark reality shows us that external power, visible signs of worldly success, or even incredible spiritual gifting don't automatically equate to internal wholeness, spiritual alignment, or profound peace. True wholeness, genuine success in God's eyes, comes when you finally realize, with deep, liberating clarity, that God's ultimate measure of success for your life is unwavering alignment with Him, not the fleeting applause of the crowd, not the accumulation of worldly things, and not even the external display of spiritual gifts. Let God lovingly redefine your expectations, shifting your gaze from the temporary to the eternal. Let Him show you what truly, deeply matters, so that you can stop measuring your progress by earthly signposts, by transient metrics, and start living by eternal principles, by the unchanging values of His kingdom. And this, my friends, is where the confrontation truly turns inward, becoming the most intimate and often the most challenging of all. Sometimes, what's blocking you isn't external at all. It's not a difficult person or a challenging situation or a crippling lack of resources that stands in your way. Instead, it's something subtle, often hidden deep within you, perhaps a subtle, insidious layer of pride that whispers, "I can do this myself," or the powerful, seductive illusion of control that makes you cling tightly to your own plans. Think about Peter, one of Jesus's closest disciples. He was bold, incredibly passionate, and fiercely loyal. He vowed unwavering fidelity to Jesus, even declaring with zealous confidence, "Though all others fall away and abandon you, I will never." But listen closely to the heart of that declaration. It wasn't spirit-dependent speaking. It was his own raw, unrefined self-confidence, a deep-seated belief in his own human strength and unwavering resolve that tragically led him astray in that moment. And then, the rooster's crow. That simple, piercing sound, echoing in the pre-dawn darkness, became a divine alarm clock. It exposed his limits, revealed his humanity, and shattered his illusion of absolute control and self-sufficiency. But here's the key, the beautiful, redemptive truth. Peter's failure, his painful moment of weakness and denial, didn't break him beyond repair. It became the very door to his real, lasting strength. It humbled him to his core. It taught him, with a visceral honesty he couldn't ignore, that he couldn't rely on himself alone. That true strength came from surrendering to something far greater. This is your moment to admit it, to truly acknowledge, with a humble and open heart, that you need divine help, that you simply cannot do this alone, that relying solely on your own will and strength is a path to exhaustion and limitation. Surrender isn't giving up in defeat. It's actually the secret passageway to true expansion, to a strength that isn't your own, but God's. It's letting go of the exhausting illusion of control to gain true, liberating freedom. It's an act of profound trust, opening your hands to receive His infinite grace. Now, are you ready for something truly unexpected? Something that might completely flip your perspective and redefine your understanding of God's ways. Sometimes, that very limitation you're resenting, that frustrating barrier you keep running into, that closed door you've been banging against, is actually God's incredibly loving hand of protection. He might be forcing you to pause, to slow down, to wait in what feels like an interminable delay, precisely so that you don't build on the wrong foundation, so you don't rush prematurely into something before your character is fully prepared, before your roots have grown deep enough. His delays are often divine detours leading to better destinations. Look at David, the shepherd boy chosen by God. He was anointed king as a young man, a prophetic declaration of his destiny. Yet after that powerful anointing, he spent years, even decades, exiled in desolate caves, running for his life from a vengeful King Saul, facing constant threats, living as a fugitive. He wasn't forgotten by God, quite the opposite. He was being refined, like precious metal in a fire. He was learning to lead, to fight, to trust God implicitly in the wilderness, developing the resilience, wisdom, and compassion required of a true king. He experienced loss, betrayal, and deep humility. Premature promotion, getting what you want before your character, your inner resilience, and your spiritual fortitude are fully developed, can actually destroy you, overwhelming you with responsibilities you're not equipped to handle. It's like putting a tender little seedling into the path of a hurricane. It simply won't survive the storm's intensity. God's delays are absolutely not denials. They are profound strategic invitations to let your roots grow deep, to develop spiritual muscle, resilience, wisdom, and strength in the unseen, quiet, often uncomfortable places, so that when the season of true, abundant expansion finally comes, when the wind blows and the storms rage, you are unshakable, deeply rooted, and ready to stand firm. But here is the absolute truth, and it's one that nobody, myself included, truly wants to hear, because it demands the deepest level of surrender. It's often the final, most stubborn barrier to your next level of expansion, to your true freedom, to stepping fully into your inheritance, and it's this: your willingness to truly, genuinely bless what's behind you. This isn't just about forgiving people who have wronged you, though that is a massive, life-altering part of it. It's about radically releasing everything that belongs to the past, every slight, every disappointment, every unfulfilled expectation, every lost opportunity, every emotional anchor that keeps you tethered to yesterday. Jesus understood this profoundly, teaching a spiritual principle that cuts across our natural inclinations. He told his disciples, as they went out to minister, that if a town didn't receive them, if their message was rejected, they were to literally shake the dust from their feet as they left. It wasn't an act of anger or spite, not a gesture of judgment or disdain. It was an act of profound, deliberate, and spiritual release. It meant releasing even the smallest residue of old offense, the lingering disappointment of rejection, the pain of being misunderstood, or the weight of unappreciated labor. It was about leaving the past in the past, not just physically departing, but emotionally and spiritually severing the ties. You see, until you are willing to genuinely forgive the land that once sheltered you, even if it caused you pain, even if it deeply disappointed you, even if it failed to recognize your worth, until you release it with a blessing, with a prayer of peace, you simply cannot fully inherit the new territory, the new season, the new blessings, and the new relationships that are waiting for you, eager to unfold. Bitterness is a heavy, self-imposed chain, binding you to the very things you wish to escape. It's a poison that you drink, hoping it will harm another. Forgiveness, conversely, is the profound key that unlocks the door to your future, freeing you not just from the past, but for the magnificent journey ahead. Tonight, before you close your eyes and drift off to the peaceful embrace of sleep, I want you to make a powerful, heartfelt declaration. I want you to say this prayer out loud, letting the words resonate deeply in your spirit, owning them as your undeniable truth, letting them become the very fabric of your belief. I release all fear. I release all doubt. I step into my divine purpose, fully and unreservedly, and I trust that my miracle is already on its way, manifesting even now. Speak it with conviction, with every fiber of your being, believing that as you utter those words, something profound shifts in the spiritual realm, aligning the seen with the unseen. And if this message, this profound word, found you in what feels like a significant, perhaps challenging season of transition, if it spoke directly to that quiet longing in your heart, that deep yearning for more, then please, I earnestly encourage you to share your heart in the comments below. Let me know how it resonated with you, what truth illuminated your path. And even better, if your spirit nudges you, tag someone, just one person, who you know deeply, profoundly needs to hear this liberating truth today. Someone who feels confined, someone who needs this encouragement, this divine permission to step forward. Remind them, and remind yourself again and again, you were never, ever meant to be confined. Your expansion is not just coming, it's overdue. Don't let hesitation or the deceptive comfort of the familiar or the echoes of yesterday hold you at the very threshold of your own miraculous breakthrough any longer. Step through, the path is open, and God awaits.